Before smartphones, before constant notifications, before life felt so fast, Gen X grew up in a completely different world. If you were born between 1965 and 1980, you probably remember a slower rhythm of life, a world where afternoons could stretch endlessly, and silence wasn't something to escape from. This generation was shaped during a time of transition, long before the digital world took over everyday life. So today, we're looking at the psychology of Gen X, those born between 1965 and 1980, and the mental patterns they developed growing up in a slower, less distracted world. Number 1, early independence shaped the brain. If you're part of Gen X, independence wasn't something you were taught in a workshop or encouraged with motivational quotes. It was simply expected. You were trusted to figure things out early, sometimes earlier than you felt ready for. Many children from that era spent long stretches of time without adult supervision. You walked to school on your own. You played outside until the streetlights came on. You solved problems without immediately asking for help. And when something went wrong, you didn't always run to an adult first. You tried to fix it yourself. From a psychological perspective, this mattered more than people realized at the time. Independence during childhood strengthens what psychologists call executive functioning. That includes decision-making, self-control, planning, and emotional regulation. In simple terms, your brain learned early how to manage itself. This is why many adults who grew up in that era have a strong inner compass. They're comfortable making decisions alone. They don't panic easily when something breaks or plans fall apart. There's a quiet confidence that comes from knowing, I've handled things before. I'll figure this out too. However, this early independence also came with a hidden cost. Because help wasn't always readily offered, many learned to suppress the instinct to ask for support. Even today, people from this generation often prefer to struggle privately rather than lean on others. Psychology doesn't see this as weakness, it sees it as conditioning. A brain trained early for self-reliance doesn't automatically reach outward, it turns inward first. Number 2, emotional resilience over emotional expression. If you're Gen X, chances are you grew up in a time when emotions weren't something you talked about openly. Your parents didn't ask how you were feeling, not because they didn't care, but because feelings weren't the currency of daily life. You fell off your bike, scraped your knee, and your mom glanced at it. You're fine, she said, and you were. Not because the pain wasn't real, but because the response taught you something crucial. You could survive discomfort. You could move through pain. You didn't need someone to validate every emotional experience in order to recover from it. This wasn't emotional neglect. It was a different model entirely. One built on the assumption that you were capable, that you could handle things, that your emotional world was yours to manage. The result was a generation that learned to self-soothe before they learned the term. You developed internal emotional regulation because there was no external emotional management system. When something upset you, you didn't have a feelings chart on the wall. You didn't have a parent kneeling down to eye level, asking you to name your emotion. You had your bedroom, your bike, your friends, and time. You weren't taught to suppress emotions. You were taught that emotions didn't require an audience, that you could feel something deeply without needing to announce it, without needing someone to fix it. This created a particular kind of strength, not the kind that pretends nothing hurts, but the kind that hurts, processes, and moves forward, the kind that doesn't mistake feeling with incapacity. Today, there's a conversation about emotional availability, about creating space for feelings, about validation. And those things have value, but what often gets lost is the other side of the equation, the value of emotional self-sufficiency, the strength that comes from knowing you can sit with discomfort and come out the other side intact. You learned that early. And it's still there. Number 3, comfort with boredom. If you grew up as part of Gen X, boredom wasn't something you tried to escape. It was just part of the day. Long afternoons with nothing planned, evenings where time felt slow. Moments where there was simply nothing happening. Back then, boredom didn't come with anxiety. There was no instinct to immediately fill the silence, no screen to reach for, no endless stream of content waiting to distract you. Instead, your mind learned to sit with itself. You daydreamed, you imagined, you found small ways to entertain yourself. Psychologically, this mattered. Boredom activates the brain's default mode network, the part responsible for creativity, reflection, and deeper thinking. For Gen X, this mental state wasn't rare, it was familiar. That's why Gen X tends to value simple, quiet moments more deeply. A walk without headphones, sitting alone with music, watching the world without interacting with it. These aren't habits, they're echoes of a time when the mind had room to wander. Psychology suggests that this comfort with boredom helped Gen X develop patience, creativity, and emotional depth. Their minds learned that not every moment needs to be filled, and that sometimes, the most meaningful thoughts arrive in the quiet. Number 4, a strong sense of responsibility. For Gen X, responsibility wasn't something that arrived in adulthood. It was woven into childhood. From a young age, you were expected to contribute, to help, and to handle your part without needing reminders. Chores weren't framed as lessons. They were just part of life. You did what needed to be done because it was expected of you. There wasn't much negotiation. Responsibility wasn't praised loudly, it was assumed. Psychologically, this shaped a deep internal sense of accountability. Gen X learned early that actions had consequences and that reliability mattered. When you said you'd do something, you did it. When you were given a task, it became yours to carry. This early responsibility trained the brain to value follow-through and self-discipline. Many Gen X adults still carry this mindset. They show up, they handle their obligations quietly, and they often feel uncomfortable relying on others to take over what they believe they should manage themselves. For Gen X, being responsible isn't just behavior, it's part of identity. Number 4, social skills were built face-to-face. For Gen X, social connection happened in real time. Conversations weren't planned through messages or delayed by screens. You talked when you were together, and when you weren't, you waited. That waiting was normal. Friendships were built through shared presence. Sitting side by side, walking together, talking without interruptions. You learned how to read tone, body language, and silence because those were the only tools available. There was no rewind, no edit, no chance to rethink every word after it was said. Psychologically, this shaped strong social awareness. The brain learned to pick up on subtle emotional cues, facial expressions, pauses, shifts in energy. Gen X became comfortable with eye contact and natural conversation flow. There's a certain nostalgia tied to this, remembering long phone calls, unplanned visits, or simply sitting with someone without needing to fill every moment. These experiences trained patience and presence. You learned how to be with people, not just communicate with them. As adults, many Gen X individuals still carry this social grounding. They value depth over frequency. They prefer meaningful conversation over constant contact. And they often feel drained by surface-level interaction that lacks emotional weight. Number 5. Deep nostalgia lives strongly in adulthood. For Gen X, nostalgia isn't just remembering the past, it's feeling it. A song, a smell, a familiar sound can instantly pull you back, not just to a moment, but to a state of mind. The past feels emotionally textured, almost tangible. Psychologically, this happens because Gen X formed memories during a time of fewer distractions. Moments weren't competing with constant input. Experiences had space to settle deeply into the brain. That depth makes memories stronger and more emotionally vivid. There's a quiet longing here, not necessarily to return to the past, but to reconnect with how life felt then. Simpler, slower, less crowded mentally. Many Gen X adults find comfort in revisiting old music, routines, or familiar places because it restores a sense of emotional safety. Nostalgia also plays a stabilizing role. Psychology shows that revisiting meaningful memories helps reinforce identity, especially during times of change or uncertainty. That's why the past feels rich rather than distant. It isn't about clinging to it. It's about carrying it forward quietly, like a familiar weight that brings comfort rather than burden. I'll be sharing more videos like this on emotional growth, psychology, and self-understanding. Subscribe if this content resonates with you.